Welcome back to Mr. Orr's Book Classes for Grammar. Today we're going to be looking at sentence pattern 7a. So again, we're looking at our pattern here. We're looking at use of appositives, filling in your notes, looking at some practice where you're filling in some blanks for other people's sentences, and then using that pattern to create your own sentences. Let's look at the slides. So sentence pattern 7a, ironically, is actually probably the more common, most useful of these. It doesn't require you to only have a series or a list that you want to put in the beginning of a sentence or internally somewhere in the middle of a sentence. This is one where you can have just a single appositive somewhere in the sentence. So in pattern 7a, there are three variations. One of those variations is using a dash, one is using commas, the other is using parentheses. Again, not a big fan of parentheses because people, when they see them, tend to overlook them and not pay attention to what's there. Dashes could be overused if you're using too many of them. They can seem more dramatic, more drastic, whereas commas are more subtle and fit in. However, not everyone's really confident with commas because there are so many ways you can use commas. Some of those ways we use them are incorrect. So again, what we're doing is, as an appositive, we're renaming the subject or some other noun in the sentence. So my favorite film, Star Wars, of course, is a classic. Again, your independent clause is my favorite film is a classic. You're naming that favorite film of Star Wars. The of course simply adds voice and style to the sentence, not required. But you always can add words like that, transitional words, connecting words, or style words or phrases. A little more subtle, Mr. Orth, comma, my language arts teacher, comma, is crazy. The main sentence is Mr. Orth is crazy. Mr. Orth is my language arts teacher, so the appositive is there. Again, when you think about the appositive, you're really taking out one of two sentences by putting them together. You really could say, Mr. Orth is my language arts teacher, period. He is crazy, period. Well, if you put those together with an appositive, again, the subtle words of the commas, it works well. If you put it, only have the one comma, Mr. Orth, comma, my language arts teacher is crazy, if you don't have the second comma, it's not a positive. You're simply addressing Mr. Orth, telling Mr. Orth that my language arts teacher is crazy. That's why those double commas are important to show that the interruption. We can take it out, whether it's commas or between dashes or between parentheses, we can take it out of the sentence. For the appositives, these are make the reading optional. It might imply that part of your audience already knows that appositive, but not everyone might. My sister, in parentheses, Stephanie, has a birthday this week. In this application, Stephanie might be something that some people in the audience know that is your sister's name, but in this case, you're putting my sister, Stephanie in parentheses, has a birthday this week, because the important part is to emphasize my sister, and maybe to some people that her first name is interesting. For some, it's necessary. Others, they could skip it. Remember too, in note using pattern 7a, you only do this when you have one, maybe two appositives. If you have a series of 3 or more, do pattern 6 or 7, so you have the list. And again, with the pattern 6 or 7, one of the keys in that series is you don't use a coordinated conjunction before the last item in the series. It's simply 3 items or 4 items with a comma separating them. I do not recommend using dashes and semicolons together. So if you're going to use this with the series, the appositives and dashes, do commas only to separate your list. If it's that complex, perhaps you need to look at a different structure. Go ahead and go to the practice and let your teacher know when you're finished so he can give you feedback on the work you have so far.